This is Learning to Dad
I'm the cool dad. That's my thing.
with Tyler Ross.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
I'm gonna have fun, and you're gonna have fun.
We finally got it to work, Mattie. Here we are.
Live.
And in color. Appreciate you being here, man.
Well, it's great to be here. It's
Right,
not too often I'm invited as a guest on a podcast. I think
Well,
I think sometimes people are scared to hear what I have to say.
I love listening to the things that you have to say. They're always so interesting and thought-provoking. And, well, learning to dad. We're talking about business. We're talking about being a business owner, talking about being a parent, trying to be good at both. And let's say that our episode today is sponsored by some local artists. And in this sense, I have Carrie Molina here, who has this piece of art right here. You can go to her website, carriemolina.com. I'll try to put it in the show notes. And I see you have a local artist behind you as well.
My wife, Lila Fletcher Leto, and my son, Lucas Leto. They don't have a website or a card, but maybe one day they'll have some artwork to sell. So we'll see what happens.
There you go. Well, let's quickly, for anybody listening, create some context for who you are and what you do. I mean, tell me about what you do professionally and, you know, your family profile, like how many kids you have and the rest.
What do I do? I've been a chiropractor for almost 25 years. And I do adjust people, but my specialty is horses, adjusting horses. You can check out my website, animalsofchiropractic.com. This is something that, I've really gone all in on, and I've dedicated my life to. Working with horses is something that, it's hard to put into words. I'm struggling to find the words because, you have these animals which, outweigh you sometimes by maybe like 1,000 pounds. And I'm doing things to them with my work. Some of them have never been handled like that in their entire life. So I have to trust the horse, and the horse has to trust me. And if you think about what needs to take place for the horse to actually trust me, to adjust them, it's profound, because you can't, you can bully a horse into allowing you to ride them. I don't suggest it. I think inevitably you're going to run into some problems, which could cost you your life. But you can't bully a horse into allowing you to adjust them. So, you're communicating with another species. Like you're bridging this gap, and it's just you're communicating through like the network of like life itself. You're alive, I'm alive. You're a horse, I'm a human. And we have to find some common ground to communicate with one another. That to me is like the coolest thing ever. It's mystical. It's magical. I don't take it for granted. It's I'm always trying to work at that language, that communication. And the better I get at it, the more the horses trust me. And the more I can trust them. And that's my main work. That's essentially what I do. Almost all day, every day. As far as the more important job I have of being a parent, I have 2 kids. I have a son who's almost 5. I have a daughter who's a year and a half. And that's, being a husband, being a father, that to me is like, wow, I've become worthy enough to, you know what I mean? To do that, That to me is like, okay, that's a really good sign. You know what? When I got married, I was sitting with my groomsmen and I looked around and everyone there was just such a solid man, solid dude. And I said, okay, I've done something right, because there's no way that I would be friends with these guys if I didn't do something right a little bit,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that if you get married, if you have kids, and you show up the best you can, that's to me, there's nothing better.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I got so many questions now. One, the first one that popped into my head was communicating with another species, and I would almost put a baby in that same category, because they don't understand English. They don't know what you're saying. You don't know what they're saying. Can you overlap that kind of? Is it fair to call it intuition that is either ingrained in you as a chiropractor working on horses, as dad spending time with an infant or a toddler? Is there some overlap in that?
I mean, there must be. Definitely in body language, right? Because it's the same thing. Like, I don't want to bully or intimidate my kids. I want to convince them that trusting me to lead is in their best interest. Like, the more they trust me to lead, the more awesome their life is going to be. So with the horse, at some point, the horse has to be convinced that life with you is better than life without you. Whatever you have in mind is better than what they have in mind. And if they trust you to lead, they'll go along with it. And I think it's the same thing with kids. Now, I want to get my kids out of the house and out onto our farm and go hiking and stuff, but it's getting hot now, right? So perfect example is like yesterday. It's really hot. I'm watching my kids for a little while. I don't know, it was yesterday or it was the day before. I can't remember. All the days blend into one. So I'm like, my wife had to go do something, so it's me, my son, and my daughter. And I'm like, my daughter I could just pick up. She's 1.5 years, but my son's almost 5 now. So I go, come on, we're going to go for a hike. And he's like, no, Daddy, it's too hot. It's too hot. So I had to convince him that it was going to be awesome. And part of that was we have like this push cart.
Yep.
Me convincing him that, look, get in the push cart and I'm going to push you and it's going to be awesome. And it was. He agreed to it, and we had the best time.
And so out of that, what I get from both a professional standpoint and a parental standpoint, honesty and trust is going to be like a baseline for establishing a relationship. And you and I met as a result of jiu-jitsu, and instantaneously I think we connected and have become fast friends. And I think it's because I immediately trusted you, and I have faith in the things that you say and the person that you are, and you've yet to prove otherwise. And I know that you have expressed to me in the past that you have a really, I don't know, is confidence the right word, in your initial judgment or read on somebody upon meeting them. How has that kind of influenced your parenting and your work?
That it's a deeper question.
Yeah.
And so when I first went to college, I did my undergrad at Seton Hall, and one of my best friends, that's still one of my best friends to this day, friendship with him over 30 years, my friend Chris, he's the first person I met that didn't lie, that wasn't a liar, who was honest. And I came from a culture of growing up where like everyone lied, and it was like normal. So I was a liar, and I didn't realize until I met my friend Chris how destructive that way of being is, right? Mm-hmm. So through the years, little by little, I said, I'm gonna stop lying. I'm gonna become as honest as I can. And the more I did it, to like now, like a fault, it gave me like an ability to, I'm not going to say it's 100% accurate, but I think it's really accurate, where I can tell if someone's honest or not, because I've become honest. Now I'm not saying you go up on the rooftops and start screaming the truth out to the world, because truth is hard to come by. What I'm saying is just don't lie. You know, and I think I think, you know, as far as my work with the horses could tell if you're full of it. Yeah. They could tell, man, and so could kids. Yeah. You know, with it's really, because, you know, out on the farm we have a lot of you know, people that we need to come out to do jobs that I can't do, you know. Mm-hmm. And some of these people, I don't, you know, I'm not saying they're bad people, but, you know, some of them drink and some of them kind of live in a way that I don't and my family doesn't. And it's amazing how my son could pick up on these people and he wants no part of them, you know? Yeah. And he'll even give them like a dirty look and walk away, you know? Which is like...
It speaks volumes about somebody.
As the older the kids get, the more protective the dogs get. So my German Shepherd now is really like, he's become more and more leery of people that he, you know, that he thinks may not be good for the kids, which I like.
Yeah. Well, it tells you so much about somebody, I think, when, you know, dogs like them, babies and kids like them, other animals are drawn to them to speak directly to what you're saying. It's like that's generally a good litmus test on what kind of person that is. It's not often a dog likes a jerk. There's exceptions, of course, or that kids like those people. Let's talk about environment a little bit, because you have had quite the contrast in your life's experience. I know you grew up in New Jersey, spent a lot of time in New York City. You worked as a chiropractor on two-legged creatures, including some really well-known jiu-jitsu people that we could talk about all day long. There's nobody that I've ever heard of that you haven't trained with, which is really cool. But with respect to growing up in a more urban environment, spending a lot of time in New York City, and now living on a farm where, I mean, the nearest grocery store is a 40-minute drive. Like, could you describe how that environment has impacted you personally and your profession, like transitioning from humans to horses? Because I'm sure in New York City you didn't adjust a lot of horses. None.
You know, when I was really little, up until I was 11, I spent a lot of time in a rural environment, particularly upstate New York. And what happened is my parents died when I was really young. So when I was 11, I got adopted by my aunt and grandmother, and they lived right outside New York City in New Jersey. So I went from basically, you know, spending a lot of time living mostly rural, you know, to now basically being in the city. And that was really difficult. And I always felt called, to come back to nature. Mm-hmm. You know, through the years, I would try, as I got older, you know, like when I was in college and then when I did my science program and went into chiropractic school, I just had this feeling of like I had to be in nature. You know, I had to get back to nature. I couldn't really understand why. And a lot of my friends were like I'll give you an example, like in college and undergrad, after my junior year, I didn't want to go out to the bars anymore. I'd rather go night hiking, you know, and it was really hard to get my friends to go hiking with me in the woods because there's no girls in the woods. The girls are at the bar. They're like, dude, what do you mean you want to, I'm like, yeah, man, let's go. We'll go for a night hike. We'll make a fire. This will be awesome. They're like, no, it's not awesome. But I just felt this call. But, after chiropractic school, my aunt, she got dementia. So I went back to Jersey, and then I opened my first practice in New York City to look after her, which, that was about 10 years, and basically my life at that time was like work, train jiu-jitsu, and take care of my aunt with dementia.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have much of a life outside of that. And I, that was basically age 30 to 40, 29 to 39, 40. And so I really thought I missed my window to get married. Mm-hmm. Because, it's, you don't really have much to give to anyone when you're just, I was like taking care of my aunt with dementia is like, you don't really have time for a relationship. Mm-hmm. And what, I was building my chiropractic practice because that was paying for everything. And that was a struggle, man. I mean, I love my work as a chiropractor, but I got to be honest, I hated New York City. I don't like cities. And then what kept me sane was training jiu-jitsu, and in New York City, I got to train with some of the best in the world and also be their chiropractor. So I wasn't going to give up that. So I just thought to myself, well, I guess I'm not going to get married, which I think was heartbreaking, but I kind of like pushed those feelings down. And then when my aunt died in 2012, I closed my practice, and it took me a little while to get out of New York. I didn't realize how much my aunt's death, like I thought when she died I was going to feel relief, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. It was really, the next year and a half was really difficult emotionally, and they kind of blindsided me. I wasn't expecting that. And it was hard to make the best decisions for myself, but finally I was able to get out of New York City, and I moved out to Colorado. And that's where I met my wife. She was out there nannying. And man, what a freaking gift, what a blessing, man, to have her come in my life, and inevitably we would come and move to Virginia, where she's from. Mm-hmm. And what really brought us back to Virginia was we came home for Christmas one year, and we just saw the state of things, and this farm we live on is my wife's legacy, and at the time we didn't have any children, so her and I had a long talk, and I said, you may feel this the way you feel about the farm right now is not the way you're going to feel about the farm once we have kids. And so I was like, I think we should move back. I think we should move to Virginia. And she was like, I think that's what it's definitely what she really wanted, but my business was doing so well in Colorado, I think she didn't want to ask me to give that up. Mm-hmm. But I honestly, I didn't care, man. Tyler, I really think that I really think the way to have God in your life is to answer the call to adventure. Because I think adventure, the call to adventure is a bridge to God. And I think that call to adventure is the way to connect and have God in your life. So I think it's that higher power, that higher benevolent power that calls you to adventure, because when you get called to adventure, you're like reaching beyond what you're capable of. And when you do that, it kind of pushes you, or even forces you to start living from the better and even the best parts of yourself. And this is something that I really learned over and over and over again. Like when you are you're reaching, like you have some goal or target you want to hit that's beyond your capability at the time, you have to let go of the smaller parts of yourself which don't want to let go of you, and really start living from those higher levels of yourself, which is, like courage and faith and willingness. And sorry about that. And
That's good.
When you start to live, so for me, it's like there's seasons to this. I'm not always living from like the higher aspects of myself all the time. But like for example, like I wanted to do Kokoro, which is the Navy SEAL Crucible, and I trained a year for it. So for that entire year, I was pushed to live from the better parts of myself, which made everything better. Made my marriage better, my relationship with my kids better. I nearly tripled my business. Without trying, I was just training so hard for Kokoro and living out the higher principles that everything, like the level of prosperity just started to multiply. And during that year, that's when I met you, George, and Mike. Right?
Yeah.
And so you said when you met me, you instantly trust me. Well, that's probably why. Because at the time when you met me, I was aspiring to achieve this impossible goal, this freaking like impossible thing. And I was going through their coaching program. And so, I mean, that to me is, you want to be a better father, you want to be a better husband, you want to be a better businessman, then set your sights on something that's impossible and dedicate yourself to it completely. And you will live in a much more positive state, because you're not going to be able to mess around in those lower levels. And I inadvertently learned that through doing these things, and it's been a compounding effect. But Kokoro really kind of nailed it home. Like, this is what happens when you do that.
So you have built and basically walked away from 2 businesses in this answer to the call of adventure. Did you sell those businesses, or just kind of close them to move on?
No, well, the business in New York, no, I referred all my clients out, and I just closed it and left. Could I have sold it? Yeah, I could have. But like emotionally at the time, I just needed to get out of New York.
Yeah.
Colorado was the same thing. I referred all my clients out, and I just left. And could I have sold it? Yeah. But I just wanted, more than selling it, I wanted my clients, and which the majority of them were horses, I just wanted them to be well taken care of.
So how would you describe the communication that you felt, if you were going to call the call to adventure some form of communication? Is that like this internal feeling? Did you seek out trying to get, I don't know, did you try to cultivate your intuition? Like, what did you do where you finally said, okay, I acknowledge and recognize this is my call, I'm going to accept the call, and I'm going to walk away from not just 1 but 2 businesses that you built into successful, sustaining businesses?
I would say it's an undeniable knowingness inside of you that I think most people sedate because it's terrifying. You are literally stepping into the unknown. You're standing on the edge of an abyss, and you're gonna leap, and you don't know what's gonna happen. And I think that for me, I think that losing my parents at a very young age was dude, it's tragic. It's I have 2 older sisters, and they're amazing. But all 3 of us experienced that tragedy. For me, it's kind of like when you're a child, you don't really have sovereignty over your life. You have these adults in your life that are going to make choices for you. So you're kind of like dragged into things, and maybe you don't want to go. Mm-hmm. In a way, though, I think going through that made answering the call to adventure, for lack of a better word, easier. Yeah. Because it was kind of like, well, I've already been through that. I've already been through horror. I've already been through tragedy. Like, I'm a man now. I know how to pick myself up and dust myself off. I've made countless mistakes. I've failed countless times, and I've just learned to kind of just pick myself up, dust myself off, and learn from the mistakes. And I think one of the greatest skills that anyone could develop is learning how to bounce back from failure. Because I think when most people fail, they crush themselves, and their story becomes, I am a failure. Instead of, okay, I failed, let's see where I went wrong, and let me learn how I can get better. Like, the stories we tell ourselves the most important stories are the stories we tell ourselves. And we get to choose what story we want to tell ourselves, about the world. And of course, you want to be honest with yourself. You don't want to lie, because lying is destructive. But you cannot destroy yourself with self-criticism. You can't take yourself out of the game. So that undeniable, it's like a resonance within you. And I'm telling you, man, people will sedate this in themselves. They'll do it with food. They'll do it with drugs. They'll do it with alcohol. They'll do it with, watching stuff on the computer, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not hard to sedate yourself. Mm-hmm. But that undeniable call to adventure, it's calling you. It's calling you. There's a gestalt. There's a feeling to it. There's a knowingness. And the best thing you could do is say yes to it. Look what you guys. Look at what you guys just did.
Yeah.
Right? That is the Forge, the shirt you're wearing, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy that you guys just opened. Mm-hmm. And I told you guys when we had that meeting at your office. And when I told you guys what I was telling you, I was risking you guys being like, man, Mattie's out of his mind. But I promise you, like, from my experience, when you say yes to the call of adventure, what you're really saying yes to is prosperity. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be scary? Yes. Is it going to push you to your limits? Of course. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to shatter the limitations you're living by at this moment and push you to a higher level of being. That's what it's going to do. And everything will benefit from you becoming a better you. Everything will benefit.
Someone living from the lesser parts of themselves, do you have recommendations or advice or experience regarding practical tools or practical steps that someone who is not optimizing their parenting or their business because they are sedating themselves, like what tools, tricks, or executable actions would you recommend, or did you personally take to get out of that sedated part to living from the greater part of yourself?
So I think, all right. So like, I call Kokoro a moonshot, right?
Mm-hmm.
A moonshot. And truthfully, I don't think people who haven't stacked up enough wins should reach for that moonshot. Although, I do know people who like destroyed their lives. I know this guy. You can't deny this guy's success. I don't really like him very much. I don't think he's a really integrous human being, but this guy destroyed his life, right? He destroyed his marriage, his relationship with his kids, he destroyed his business, so on and so forth. And he went and he did Kokoro and he finished. He did it. And so I asked him, I said, man, how'd you do it? How'd you finish? And he said to me, I had nothing left to go back to. My life was so awful. If I didn't secure Kokoro, I was going to kill myself. Right?
Wow.
And then him securing Kokoro literally changed his entire life. He got his wife back. He became honest. He became more honest. He built a multi-million-dollar business after he lost everything. So, I mean, like, in that case, yeah, like when you're so destructive towards yourself, maybe the moonshot is the answer, but it's not really the everyday person. So I would say what you want to start out with is you want to start to stack small wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does stacking small wins look like? Well, when you get up in the morning, make your bed. And then, before you do anything else, get right in a cold shower. Just get in the cold shower. And I take a cold shower every morning. I'll tell you what I do every morning. I wake up, I go to the bathroom, I brush my teeth, and then I get right in the cold shower. Every morning, that's what I do. And every morning, you will get to witness your mind give you reasons why you should not get in that cold shower. So the first thing I'm doing every morning when I get up is overcoming my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Overcoming my mind, overcoming resistance to be a better me. Is a cold shower the hardest thing in the world? No, but it's uncomfortable. Feel great afterwards, but when you first wake up in the morning, the last thing you want to do is get in a cold shower. But if you do it, I promise you, you're going to get something profound out of it.
Yeah.
So every day when you start to stack those little wins, right? And it gets to be the new normal, making your bed and taking a shower is now the new normal, then you add something else on. So for me, I was like, all right, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to the bathroom, I'm going to make my bed, I'm going to get up. So what I would do was I'd get up, I'd go to the bathroom, I'd get in the cold shower, I'd make my bed, and then I would say the rosary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can, if you say, oh, well, that's not my particular belief, okay, fine, whatever, man. Then learn how to do box breathing meditation. Do 5 rounds of box breathing meditation, right? And when that becomes the new normal, add something else on. Okay, now I'm going to do a little workout. And then that becomes your new normal. That becomes your morning. And
You've
before you
elevated your
know
floor.
it, you're going out into the world in that sharpened, like you're sharpening yourself before you even walk out the door. And that becomes your new state of being. And I guarantee if you do that regularly and that becomes your new normal, you are going to get called. The call to adventure will reach out to you. I guarantee it. Because you're becoming, but when you do that, when you start doing that, man, and then forget it, if you add jiu-jitsu on top of that, you're becoming, what you're doing is you're becoming a worthy human being of adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to get called to the adventure. And the best thing you could do is say yes. And it's going to be scary. It's going to be scary. Man, the call to adventure, Tyler, could look like anything. The call to adventure could be getting a kitten or a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that. Or the call to adventure could be like, taking a trip to Peru and hiking and go seeing Machu Picchu. It's different for everyone, but you know it inside of you. It's going to excite you. You know it's going to hit that resonance, and it's also going to be a little scary. You know, you're going to want to do it, but at the same time, it's going to scare the crap out of you. That's it. That's the call to adventure. The more you do that, you know, the adventures, they keep coming. They keep coming. They keep coming. And then it's awesome because you're so alive at that point. You're so alive now to this call to adventure. It's incredible. So like, things happen in my life, and I tell my friends, and they go, "Oh my God, you know, these things happen to you," and I say, "No, this is the normal thing if that will happen if you keep saying yes to the call to adventure."
So I would argue, well, I 100% align with all of that, and I would argue that by doing that, you put yourself in the best position for a more fulfilling life, and you're cultivating all of these characteristics to be a better human being, run a better business, and be a better partner to your spouse, and be a better parent, and set a better example for everyone around you. So as someone who is a business owner, a husband, and a father, what characteristics, if you were to name 2 or 3, do you think are the most important to have success in all of those things?
The most important one is humility, and that comes from failure, because every time you go to do something and you get your ass kicked, you're like, wow, okay, all right, where did I go wrong? And then if you have any sense about you, you're going to go and seek out help from someone who knows more than you. And man, Tyler, one of the greatest things that you can do is ask for help. Go and ask for help. That is, you know, like, you know, when I first got married, you know, I would look to like my friends who've been married longer than me and who have great marriages, and I would say, dude, what am I doing wrong? You know, like what can I do better? And it was always usually like, you know, just actually listen to what your wife is saying. She's going to tell you everything you need to know. You just need to shut up and listen to what she's saying. Like, she's telling you everything that she wants. You just got, you know, so humility, dude, humility is huge. And then discipline. You have to be disciplined. You have to be. Because you're not going to get anything done without discipline. So like, you know, one of my friends told me, dude, you need to listen to your wife more. And then the discipline kicked in. Okay, when my wife starts talking, I'm not going to interrupt her. I'm going to listen to her. And then I'm going to do what she tells me to do, which is like mind-blowing for her, because she's like, oh my God, I can't believe he's listening. But man, a little fly landed on the camera. But yeah, no, like, and then what you start to realize is like one of the greatest joys that you could experience is making your wife happy. That's like, when you make your wife happy, it's amazing. It's really amazing. And then I would say the third characteristic is courage. It's courage, because you're going to constantly have to do things that scare you if you want to grow. Man, if you don't want to grow, if you don't keep growing, dude, good luck. Good luck with your business. Good luck with your marriage. Good luck with your kids respecting you. I mean, you constantly have to grow, which means you constantly have to push yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And then with all your relationships, your friendships, your family relationships, your relationship with money, man, that's one of the most important relationships to work on, your relationship with money. I pretend that money is a living entity. And I ask myself, how can I serve you? I say that to the money. Like, the more financially prosperous as I could get, I will literally say to the money I'm making, man, what can I do for you? You're doing so much for me. What can I do for you? And you know what the money says? Respect me. Respect me.
Yeah.
Money, to me, financial prosperity to me is a result of the way I live my life in accordance with truth. And then trust and faith. Because there's been times in my life where I've had no money. I mean, literally, like, so I've learned to respect it and appreciate it and be grateful for it.
I love humility, discipline, and courage. Those are three amazing qualities to cultivate within oneself. And this is going to be a little bit of a loaded question because I have a follow-up question. But if you were to briefly summarize what your job is as a dad, what would you say that job is?
First, to love the kids, to give my life to them. So the fundamental purpose of my life is to raise children who are gonna be successful in the world, be successful in their relationships, but be successful with themselves. Know how to love and appreciate themselves in a way that they're courageous enough to do what they love, right? To be able to not fall into the trap of doing what they think they have to do, and to be courageous enough to answer their call to adventure. And the only way to do it is, I said this once to someone that was having some problems, and I said, your job is to become the man that you want your son to be. And your other job is to become the man that you would want your daughter to marry.
Well said.
That's it. And that's like, that should scare you a little bit. You know, that should scare you a little bit. And then man, I'm telling you, the worst thing you could do to yourself is like, one of my clients who's become a good friend, she's brilliant scientist. And she was saying to me, you want to better yourself, but you need to cut out the withering self-criticism. Self-criticism, it cannot get to the point where it becomes withering. Like, you're not supposed to take yourself out of the game. The name of the game is to better yourself. So, like, it's a constant, like training with the Navy SEALs for Kokoro and doing their program, it's like you're constantly debriefing. What did I do right? Where did I go wrong? What can I do better? Man, their coaching program is awesome. I would say anyone that is really serious about bettering themselves can go through one of their year-long coaching programs, because they teach you habits. And one of the habits they teach you is to debrief. And it's very matter of fact, where like you're like, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What can I do better? And it takes you out of that withering self-criticism. And you're always like, everything you do, you're like, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What could I do better? And I do that now with like every horse that I adjust. I look back at it and say, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? What could I do better? And it's unbelievable. And you could do that. You could do that with all your roles in jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you will undoubtedly get better. You have to get better. I mean, we all want to get better when we do jiu-jitsu, because then it's just more fun.
Yeah. So if you are, if one of the roles of a father is to, spin your kid around one day, smack him on the butt and go, here's the world, go out and get yours. And you want to cultivate those characteristics of humility, discipline, courage, make sure that they're loving and kind people. What are the ways that you would cultivate that in a 5-year-old or a child? Like, what are some of the things that you do to kind of prepare your kid to go enter, the rest of the world?
That's the question. That's a great question. So, like, man, I'm learning. I'm learning about parenting, but like I notice now with my son, who's almost 5, he's gotten to the level now of the age. Like, when they're really young, it's like they're living in another dimension. It's like so magical. But my son now is starting to get cognizant of the world around him. And what I've begun to teach him is that there is malevolence in the world. There's malevolence in the world. And so a perfect example of being able to teach him that was, we have a farm and we do chickens. We do, pasture eggs and pasture raised meat chickens. And last week we had a bear come down and kill about 15 of our chickens and our guardian geese. And so the morning after the bear did its damage, I brought my son out to show him what the bear did. Because, my son is now getting to the age where he's starting to answer the call to adventure, which is climbing trees, but also wandering a little bit around the farm. So I said to him, look, I know you love to wander a little bit, but you have to understand that there's things in the world that can hurt you. And you have to become wise to them. You can't ignore them. You have to understand that they're out there. And one day, even, you may have to confront these things because they're going to show up on your doorstep, which the bear literally did the next day. Yeah. So he got to watch me do what I needed to do as a father. But teaching him at this age that, hey man, life is amazing, but it's also dangerous. And you cannot be naive to that danger. And he's getting it. So what does that make him? It makes him more responsible. It makes him a little more aware of his situation. Like, he's going to look around. He's not oblivious. Because the last thing you want is an oblivious child. Mm-hmm. You want a child that's awake and aware. Because eventually when, children, they become adolescents and then they become adults and then they're going to go off. Just like you said. They're going to have their own life. And that's our job is to prepare them to be as successful as they can. And at the same time, man, it's going so quickly. Yeah. And there's a part of me that just wants to hold on, but I think that's a mistake, But every day I tell my son how much I love him, and I hug him, and he pushes me away a little bit now because he's getting older. But he knows it. He knows I love him, and he knows I live my life for him and his sister. He knows it,
Yeah. I've said recently that I think a dad's job and a mom's job at some point in the kid's life become directly conflicted. And ours, in some way, maybe it's masculine, feminine, maybe it's mom, dad, maybe it's husband, wife, whatever dynamic it is, one person is more inclined to scoop them up, protect them, keep them close, take care of every single thing that they need. And then the other's job is to, like I said, turn them around, smack them on the butt and go, you ready? Go make your mistakes. No, pick yourself up. And do you feel that transition, or do you feel those roles in your life?
Having my parents pass away when I was young, like, irrevocably shaped me. And yeah, like the mother and the father, like, yeah, of course you're gonna become conflicted, you know. And to be honest, I think that in some ways, when I should maybe push them a little more, I don't, but maybe I should, you know, because I lost my parents, and my relationships with my kids, I mean, they're just so special to me. I never thought I would have them. I never thought I would have kids. I never thought I would get myself together enough to be able to have kids. And now that I do, I'm just so grateful for it. My daughter's a year and a half, and I'm like, I can't ever imagine letting her go.
Yeah.
You know? My son, though, is already on his own, you know, separating, you know, but at the same point, sometimes at night, you know, out here on the farm, when it's dark, when we're going to bed, he's like, Daddy, I sleep with you tonight, you know, 'cause he's like, he maybe gets a little scared. So he knows he could always come to me for protection, but I think that sports like wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu are, man, they're like necessary for our kids to develop that courage. And I think sports like that really help us as parents, because we are, man, putting our kids in a position where they're going to be vulnerable, right? A wrestling match, a jiu-jitsu match is you're very vulnerable. You're out there on the mat alone with your opponent, and everyone gets to see what happens. And as parents, we're supportive of that process. You know, like, yeah, go out there, and whatever happens, happens. You'll be the better for it, and I'm here for you. Whatever happens, I'm here for you. I started wrestling when I was young. Man, the best thing I could have ever done for myself. The best thing I could have ever done for myself, because it made me, you know, you're so vulnerable when you're out there on the mat, but it makes you, it hardens you in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, it hardens you in a good way, and it is also extremely humbling, and that's what you want. You want to develop that humility and also that courage, you know, because you go out there, you get pinned in a wrestling match. My first year wrestling, I think I was like 6 or 7 years old. My record was 1 win and 17 losses. You know?
That's getting back up again. Yeah.
You know, and then, but over the years, I got better and better and better.
A little jog, but jiu-jitsu to me is really become my community of people. And we've all heard the expression, it takes a village, and I think, you know, if it was just you and Lila, if it was just me and Sarah raising our kids, we would limit them to our own limitations because that's our maximum capacity. So having a community of people in my life now who are parents that I admire and have qualities I admire, and who have kids I want my kids to be around and model behavior after, has brought me an appreciation for, like, genuinely having a community for kind of the first time in the last 5 years or so. Could you talk a little bit about the importance of community to you and your work and your life as a parent?
Oh man, it's so important. And my wife has done an incredible job becoming friends with other mothers in our county. It's rural county, rural farming county, that are, great moms, great families, great kids. And our kids, I mean, we're living in this rural farming community, but my kids play with other kids almost every single day.
Yeah.
Out in nature, which is amazing. But when I met you and you told me that you guys were opening the Forge, and I went there for the first time. That's my German Shepherd doing his job. Let him go outside. All right.
Yeah. Darcy's here asleep on the floor.
What?
Darcy's sleeping on the floor.
When I met you and I came to the Forge for the first time, and I met Mike and I met George, and I saw what you guys were building, and I started to meet the other parents and see the kids, man, I literally that night fell on my knees and thanked God, because I was like, finally, the community that I've been praying for has now come about. I mean, what you guys are creating and have created is literally what I was praying for probably like years.
Yeah.
And now it's like, just like you said, man, my kids get to be around those other kids that are great kids who have great parents in that jiu-jitsu environment, which embodies all the principles that we do our best to live by. I mean, man, like, what a blessing. What a profound blessing. Like, everyone's going to benefit. Everyone's going to benefit from the community that you guys created. And like I said, like I said when I was talking to you guys when we had that meeting, there's like the superficial things that everyone kind of sees. Oh, it's a jiu-jitsu school. But on the deeper level, that I feel isn't really considered unless, you're willing to delve into it. On that deeper level, there's this really profound and safe community for people to grow and develop as human beings. And you guys are holding that space, which is, man, a tremendous responsibility, because look what it's going to push you to become. You're not going to be able to stay the same men that you are. The men that you are now is incredible. You guys are incredible. But you're only going to get better. You're going to have to get better, which is awesome. I mean, like, that's what we want. That's what we always want.
Yeah. It's been really hard. I know I've talked to you about it, but doing it was a difficult decision to make that involved, really getting inside myself and prioritizing. And like you said, it's uncomfortable. It was, and it's, there were tears, there were long nights, there were serious conversations for a long time, and it's still a challenge as the time stresses. But what you're saying about really having to live from the higher part of yourself to accomplish it correctly and serve all these other people and still your kids and wife and other businesses that may be going on is right on. I can feel myself coming out of the walking across the hot stones thing, because it sucked for a long time, and I couldn't be more grateful now. We're friends as a result of this now. If not for that, I never would have met you, never would have met. We have 83 members now, I think, in 2.5 months, 3 months, which is amazing.
Amazing.
So all those things feel like feedback of making the right decision, as difficult and as much heartache was involved. But yeah, the community is just great and getting better.
I was watching George contemplate the weight of the responsibility. You know, he was
Yeah.
kind of just sitting there, and I was watching it, and I was like, "Yeah, man, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is." If you weren't who you were, it wouldn't have been bestowed upon you. And it has been. And so many blessings have already come out of it. And you guys, so it's finalized now. You guys have become affiliates with Lucas Lepre.
Yeah, we just announced it yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is like, I mean, for me, I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, you can't write this stuff. You know, Lucas, I've known Lucas since 2008. I trained with him for years. He became a close friend, but he also ended up giving me my black belt. And Lucas is jiu-jitsu royalty. He's an 11-time world champion. He's the greatest lightweight Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter to ever do it. And to think that, like, one day, you my kids, sorry. You know, one day, I was going to meet these guys who decided to open an academy in Warrenton, and then they would affiliate with Lucas. It was, you know, you can't really conceive that, you know, that's what you call a pipe dream. And it happened.
Yeah.
You know?
And to think it wasn't really even an idea until late November. And then here we are, not 6 months later. Pretty amazing. And I appreciate your role and involvement so much. And if not for that, we never would have met, and this never would have happened. And it came at great expense, but also tremendous reward. And to talk about,
I mean,
like, getting yourself out of that lower part of yourself, and
it's always that way.
Getting into that expansion mindset, and you know,
the expense is
it's still a challenge because, you know, you love all the stuff in your past,
it's like the bigger the
and
expense,
the people
the
in your
greater
past,
the reward.
But you know, it all works out.
It will, yeah. Our connection is cutting in and out. There's a pretty good storm rolling in through here.
Okay, we've been on for just over an hour, so it's probably a reasonable time to start wrapping up. But let's just knock out a couple quick, fun, kind of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Is there a fictional dad that you've always liked? A TV dad, a book dad?
I've always had a hard time being able to relate to a father figure.
We might be broken up. Well, in the event that you don't come back, I'll go ahead and do our sign off. I don't know if you can hear me, but everybody, thank you for listening. Mattie, appreciate you so much. I'm going to go ahead and follow up with you since the storm has interrupted us. But thanks everybody for listening. Carrie, Melina, again, thanks for letting us put your art on the wall behind us. And we're looking forward to featuring more local artists. You can check out their websites as you see stuff in the background. And much love, everybody.